What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I'm G, and I do true crime videos in the form of a story. So story crime with G. If you are new, try to subscribe. That makes me happy. That gives you new videos every day. And on the weekends, we try to do something fun and a little upbeat to just get our minds off the crime scenes. Today's case, guys, is just what I'm going to describe as special, because Ed, he was a special guy, and you guys are going to see that by the end of this video. Thank you so much for all of you who watch the video and like. It's really encouraging and it really helps with the algorithm, so make sure you like. And if you don't like the video, just tell me why, like, so I could do something better next time. Okay, guys, I'm gonna stop rambling and get right into the video. And my usual disclaimer, all the stuff I say in this video is stuff I've read on the internet, and I'm just compiling into one video. So today's case is about Ed Gien, also Edward Theodore Gien, also known as the Butcher of Plainfield. He was born on the 27th of August 1906 and somewhere in Plainfield. And Ed gets the name of a serial killer, but like, he was more of an artist. Just, I feel like all the big brands should have used him if it was now, and if he had actually used his skills wisely. This man had mad skills. Okay, let's talk a little bit about Ed's background. Ed was in a family of four. He had a mom, his dad, and his brother called Henry. Ed was the second child, and the brother was like the first kid. And Ed's mom was religiously brought up, and she really had some strict rules that she was brought up in, and that mindset she carried into her home, and that's how she decided to train her kids. Ed's father, on the other hand, was always drunk or probably working, but if he's not working, he's drunk, and when he was drunk, he was going to abuse the mother, physically abuse her, and this led the mother to go to the only person she knows how to go to pray, and she would be down on her knees praying like, God, take away my husband and stuff like that. But before Ed's mom had Ed, she had wanted a girl. She wanted a girl so bad. She prayed so hard throughout her pregnancy. However, when Ed was born, he was not a girl, and she was really unhappy. And she did not fail to make the boys feel like, make Ed especially to feel like always not approving of him, not feeling, I don't know, not giving him enough love. After not being able to get a girl child, she was stuck with two boys, and I think the mom was kind of okay with the fact that the husband was very passive because he was always drunk, and when he's not drunk, he's not around. So she was the sole person that was bringing up the kids. She brought up the kids in her own ways, and her ways were not great. She taught them to hate women, and every woman aside from her was just a whore, and that's the mindset she brought up her boys with. She just taught them to hate women, and the only interaction they had with other people was when they went to school. And even when they went to school, like, they were not allowed to talk to people, so they mostly stayed in their own space. The whole class found him weird because he was not already interacting with people. He was always in his own space, and he used to just laugh out loud in class, and that is definitely going to cause more bullying to what was already happening to him. And Ed also feared talking to other people because he could not even imagine what his mom is going to do to him when she finds out, especially as she was already always disapproving of everything that he does, like never saying I'm proud of you and stuff like that, and which is everything that Ed just wanted. Now, Ed's elder brother, at some point, the father fell sick, and they had to care for him for a while. They moved to a farm, and that's when the boys went into like real isolation, I would say, because they really had a big farm, and it was mostly just them and their bizarre little family. The boys had to take care of the father, and it was more of a hands-on thing. Everyone took care of him, and he later up dying at about the age of 60. But Ed and his mom and the brother too did not really, like, nothing changed. It did not really affect them. I don't know, probably because the man was already always abusive and maybe he was too passive. They just did not feel that affected by his death, by his passing. So Ed and his brother are left just with the mom, and she just continues to groom them. And at this point, the boys are getting older. They don't know about women and stuff like that. However, Henry, the older brother, at some point began to date a certain girl who was said to be divorced, and he began to, I don't know, go against his mom's preaching and his mom's indoctrination. So at this point, Henry is beginning to feel like maybe there's a life outside of what their mom teaches, and was beginning to oppose her like openly in front of Ed. And Ed's mom to him was an idol. He worshipped, like, he just knew, like, he idolized her a lot, and this was really getting to him. And sometimes Henry would try to talk to him, like, to get his brother out of the mom's grasp or something, but that was really, it really used to anger Ed. In 1994, these boys are already older. They really don't know much about women. There was a fire, like a sudden fire whose cause was not particularly found out, but in the fire, during the fire, I would say Henry died because there were no fire marks on him. So Ed called the police, and when the police came there and everything, there were no fire marks. Like, he did not get burned. The fire was somewhere else. He did not get burned, but he was lying face down. And they ended up, Ed was just able to lead the police directly to where his brother was, which was already suspicious on its own. But the police just found him dead and probably felt like he died from trauma. And they later on found some scars around his some marks, like some bruising on his head, and probably ruled it out that he might have hit himself, and that's what caused the death, because the death was ended, it was later ruled as an accident, and that just went by. But a lot of people say Ed killed his brother because he was going against his mom's wish, but nothing about that has been proven. So all of those are just suspicion till date. Guess who had mommy all to himself after Henry died? Yes, you guessed it, Edward. Even though she just nothing changed for her. She did not give him the time of the day, but he really just was happy that she was all his, and he still loved her, tried to please her. At some point, she even got a stroke, and Ed did everything that he could to take care of her. He practically nursed her back to having her health and everything. And this stroke we are talking about came just a short while after they had gone to visit another farmer around there. The farmer was a man, and he was like hitting his dog so badly. So a woman rushed from inside his house. A woman he was not married to rushed from inside his house and was asking him to stop. This totally pissed off Ed's mom, and she was just screaming, and like the man was living with a woman that is not his wife, so she was a whore to her. She was a whore, and she just went crazy. She was so upset. Ed had to take her from there, and later on she got this stroke. However, Ed nursed her back to her full health, and she was able to walk again, but she was not really grateful, like, hey, you did something big for me and stuff like that. Not too long after that, Ed's mom ended up having another stroke, but this one was fatal, and she died. And that is where everything went loose. Ed's world absolutely crashed when his mom died. He was so devastated. He did not touch any part of the house where, like, the any part of the house where she had lived in. Her room was exactly the way she left it when she died, and he just took a small portion of the house, and that's where he lived in, and he just did not take care of himself anymore. Now there was this lady, Mary Hogan, who kind of looked like Ed's mom, and Ed spent a lot of time just visiting her bar or something, and just stayed there watching her for long periods of time. So she was cool about it. She understood that, oh, she looked like this guy's mom, and so she did not really make a fuss about it. Those were just some of the times when he went into town, because after his mom died, he hardly ever went into town. He only went out to work, or just went out to work, or just went to get a few things, and he was back. He just spent a lot of time alone, and occasionally would hang out with people, like I said, at her bar. Now, in 1954, Mary got missing. Like, she just disappeared, and they could see like traces that they could see like something happened. There was forced entry and stuff, but she just disappeared from her shop, and no one was able to know. They were not able to find anything about her. Just she was just a missing person for 3 long years. And the crazy part is, when after everything happened, people began to be like, oh, okay, maybe they should have paid more attention to what Ed was saying, because Ed would literally say, people will be like, oh, okay, Meru was missing, and Ed would just make a joke and be like, no, she's not missing, she's at my house. And people would just laugh and just be like, okay, that was a bad joke and stuff like that. But Ed was damn serious. Now, in 1957, another woman goes missing. And this woman is Bernice, who coincidentally looks like Ed's mom too. This is the 16th of September 1954. Bernice Warden goes missing, and she's an owner of a hardware store, and she's an older woman in her 50s, late 50s, and she owns this place, and her son often comes by there to be with her. But this was the deer hunting season, so the son was out hunting, and a lot of men would just go out and spend the whole day hunting and just come back in the evening. Some people would only leave their houses to like get supplies, and people were coming to the hardware store, but it had been locked for pretty much most of the day. So Benice's son comes back. He goes into the hardware store and sees that it's locked, so he unlocks it, and he goes inside and sees blood splattered. Now he sees that, and like, he calls the police and then goes to the registry to check what has been sold, and he sees the last entry was antifreeze. But notice, the night before, Ed had come there to ask for the price of antifreeze, and had just said he was going to come back the next day to buy some. So obviously Bernice's son now just knows that, hey, Ed was the last customer here, and that's where the police should be looking at. And the police goes to Ed's house. He was not in his house at that time, so some of the officers go to find Ed, and some of them stay at Ed's house, and they make the discovery of a lifetime. Now I'm going to give a disclaimer here. If, like, no, it's not if. These are going to be some graphic, like some like unheard of things. So if it's something that disturbs you, just skip to like about 6-7 minutes later. So the police officers go into the house, and the house looks like this. I'll find the picture to put here. It looks like it's just a pile of trash, yes. And that's not me trash talking his house, but it was just really a pile of trash. And they get in, and one of the officers' shoulder is bruised by something, so he flashes his light on it. And because it was already dark, he flashes his light on it, and he finds that it's a decapitated Bernice hanging with her feet tied with her feet tied up, and like hanging that way, and all of her insides have been opened. Like, her inside has been opened, and what is inside has been taken out, and her head was cut off. So this guy just The officer goes outside and is throwing up, and the other officers go to try to find what else they can see there. So what they found in Ed's house, the skull of a woman in a box, which was later found to be Mary Hogan's, gloves made out of women's the skin of a woman, and a corset from the shoulder down to the waist that was made out of the skin of a woman, a whole human bone with some fragments, and they also found a bowl made out of the skull of a human. They found a head, a skull on his bedpost, like bedside decoration, and a leggings that was made from the skin of a woman's legs, from the waist down, and some mask, like a face mask. It's peeled, like a face that has been peeled off carefully, so you can tell this is a face, but just the skin, and it was a woman's skin, so you can put on the face mask. The police also found Bernice's head that was still full and all, but there were some nails pierced, like through the ears, like in a decorative manner, through the ears into the head, but her head was still intact, and he said he was planning to use that, hang it on the wall like a decoration. They also found her heart that was just sitting beside his stove in a plastic bag that was beside his stove, so wonder what he was going to have for dinner. They found 9 vulvas, like part of a woman's genital, that were just in a shoebox. They were just kept, and they found some dresses, a dress of a young girl and the breast of 2 women that were estimated to be about 15. They found a belt that was like, this is the highlight for me, like this guy was stupid creative. They found a belt made out of women's nipples. Like, how many nipples do you get to make an entire belt? Like, you know the belt you put around your waist? Yeah, the designer belt was made out of women's nipples. They found 4 nails and fingernails. This guy was going for the full look. It was glam. Like he actually said there were times when he would glam up, put on all his accessories that makes him look like a woman. Also, he made a lampshade out of human skin. Yeah, he was just in another world of its own. So at this point, you're probably thinking Ed would have killed a massive amount of people to have the, what would I say, materials for his DIY projects. Well, actually, Ed only pled guilty to killing Mary and Bernice. Okay, I don't know why. I wanted to tell you guys why, but I don't know why. But the rest of the things he had gathered, he said he confessed to the police that he had spent from 1947 to 1952 visiting several, like 3 cemeteries that were around where they lived, and he had gone to those cemeteries about 40 nights, and 30 times or so he just snapped out of it and was not able to pull through with it. But 10 of the nights he had actually exhumed bodies that had just been freshly buried. He liked reading obituaries and stuff, so whenever the body was just freshly buried, he would go there at night, go and exhume the body, and just go and use them for the parts, for the things he needed. Yeah, that was how he got the skins of those. However, older skins were becoming really difficult to work with, and because they're not really stretchy, so that is part of the reason why he killed those 2 women. And he used to dress up like full glam up like a woman, and just stay at home, look at his mirror, and just sometimes walk around. Okay, with all this craziness going on, in 1957 Ed was charged with murder, but he pled not guilty because of insanity, which was rightfully so. So he was sent to a psychiatric hospital where he spent 10 years, and in September of 1968, he was again tried and sentenced to life in prison, I think. But Ed ended up dying in in 1984 out because of lung cancer, and he actually died at a really good old age. He died at the age of 77, which was a lot more than most of his family members because they were always around 60. So he outlived the entire family, even though he was crazy. Now, Ed's property in 1958, when all of this happened, Ed's property was up for auction. Like, the with all the craziness going on, it was really going to sell well. It was valued at the time. It was valued for about $42,000 in today's $1,000. Yeah, it was valued at that price and was to go up for auction. But the night before, there was a sudden fire. Obviously, someone is suspected to have burnt it, but a lot of people were just happy that the house just went away because it was a nightmare that they would have to relive every day when tourists come over to just come and check out the place. I probably would have wanted to go and see such craziness if it still existed. Yeah, so the house was set on fire and people were just relieved. However, his car was not, and it ended up selling well, I think. Now, Ed's gravestone, when he died, he had a gravestone, and people just came and were chopping off a little piece of its, I don't know, history and going with it. So at some point, someone actually came and took off all of the gravestone and probably went with it. So Ed has a grave but no gravestone, and he actually outlived most of his family members. I do think he was actually crazy and should have been probably really creative, productive, I would say, if he had a different life. What do you guys think? What have you learned from this story? Like, don't make belts with nipples, but yeah, you guys should let me know in the comments. I really want to see your thoughts on this because sometimes these cases are actually really crazy. But let me know what you think in the comments and what videos you'd like to see next. See you guys in the next video. Thank you so much for liking the videos and for commenting. It really helps boost the algorithm and let other people see this craziness. Goodbye, guys.